It's a great pleasure to be here today with you amongst representatives from around the world who have such an important stake in the future of open distance learning. Although I'm a little bit in trepidation as the next speaker up from yesterday's speaker, who was just so amazing. Have we got the volume right? Oh. I've greatly enjoyed hearing your views and your presentations of the innovative work underway in taking forward open distance learning and listening to those opportunities and challenges that we've discussed. I'm pleased to have the opportunity today to talk to you about skills development. There's no doubt now that governments and institutions have reached a really critical stage where we need to increase our efforts to find those creative ways to meet the global demands for skills training and the skills shortages, deficits and challenges. In addressing the issues of skills development, I'm going to specifically focus on technical vocational education and training and look at the way that open distance learning plays out in that domain. It's been mentioned many times over the last few days, and you're probably very well aware that both technical vocational education and training and open distance learning do take a distinct second place in terms of government policy focus and government funding. And this is despite the fact that 80% of training, on-job training and training for careers actually occurs in the TVET arena. And that's a greater percentage when you're looking at developing countries. And it's also despite the fact that, as Sir John so consistently and convincingly puts it, open distance learning is really the only form of education that is capable of meeting the huge and growing demand for global skills training that lies before us. But there is some good news too, and governments and international agencies are now recognising the role that skill development, TVET, plays in delivering both skills needed for a modern economy, whatever their stage of development, and just as importantly, in furthering social inclusion. Phenomena such as globalisation and the disturbingly high level of youth unemployment around the countries in the world has also added further impetus to this trend. There's an increasingly rich body of thinking, debate, theory and practice in the field of TVET. And more recently, that's expanded to the field of open TVET. And this is a process in which the Commonwealth of Learning has made and is making an absolutely vital contribution. There's growing recognition for the need for national qualifications frameworks and transnational qualifications frameworks to provide that portability of both qualifications and of skills, but also the need for better linkages between TVET and the school system and the higher and further education tertiary systems, and also between TVET training in both the formal and informal economies. There's also growing recognition for the need for increased collaboration and multi-stakeholder engagement in extending not only the access to TVET, but increased access to TVET that really works. And all of this, of course, is being played out with a new inflection and a new urgency by the complexity and the volatility of the global economy. Let me tell you a little bit about the New Zealand context. New Zealand has been affected by the global recession, perhaps to a lesser extent than other Western countries. Our unemployment rate is running at about 6.4% compared to an OECD average of 8.5%. What that means is about 70% of our adult population is in some form of paid employment. But despite this, and in the medium term, we still expect to face increasing skills shortages and the needs for reskilling in the face of a demographic trend that is driving an increasingly ageing workforce. And the sharpest effect for us of the global recession is that our government spending will be very, very tightly constrained in the years ahead. In the 2009 to 2010 year, the New Zealand government spent $12.4 billion on all education, and it's been very clear that tertiary education will receive either no or minimal increases in the next few years. And there's a mantra around New Zealand of doing more with less. Our finance minister is often quoted on expecting us to be better, smarter public services for less, and I'm sure that's a sentiment that's echoed around the rest of the world. And although we are a developed country, New Zealand still has significant numbers of the population that lack the basic language, literacy, numeracy skills that they need for their jobs in a modern and rapidly changing economy. On a world stage, in its draft education strategy for 2020, the World Bank highlights that link between education and people's quality of life. Education, and I'll quote directly, education enhances people's ability to make informed decisions, to sustain a livelihood, to adopt new technologies, to be better parents, to cope with shocks, and be responsible citizens and effective stewards of the natural environment. But successfully increasing participation, however, brings a new set of challenges. Enrolment in higher and further education worldwide has increased fivefold in the last 40 years. In 1970, there was about 29 million enrolments. In 2007, this had risen to 153 million. This translates as an annual increase of about 4.6%, or that the numbers double every 15 years. Even so, the scale of unmet demand is huge and growing. At an international level, therefore, there is now quite a discernible shift from simply talking about increasing numbers and the need for increased investment to support those numbers. There's now an equal focus on outputs, on effectiveness, and on generating value from the investment that's made in tertiary and TVET education. The ongoing and long-term effects of the global financial crisis are only reinforcing this trend. And as the World Bank notes, whilst there has been real progress in access and participation in schooling and in post-school education, in many countries that access has not been equal across income, gender, and other population groups. And it goes further. While many countries spend a substantial proportion of their national income on education, the results from this, in many countries, in the World Bank's words, has been disappointing in terms of outcomes actually delivered. So why is this? Many countries face simultaneous challenges of securing basic education for those hard to reach or disadvantaged groups, expanding access to basic skills training to increase chances of employment opportunities, while providing second chance and remedial programs for large numbers of learners who leave school with no qualifications at all. And at the same time as this, all these programs must be quality assured, relevant and current. And these challenges are often simply too large for any single institution, and sometimes too large for a subsector, and sometimes even too large for a country. Meeting the challenges of the future will require new ways of collaborating amongst all the relevant players involved in TVET: governments, international agencies, institutions, schools, communities, public and private sectors. Increased collaboration needs to occur at national, regional, and transnational levels. In these times of fiscal constraint, with governments and funding agencies looking for value for money in their investments, We therefore need to look at how new forms of partnerships and of collaborations can cost effectively increase access to skills development while increasing quality and outcomes. There are many impressive examples of just this sort of collaborative activity throughout the Commonwealth, including Cole's recent flexible skills development initiatives and other experiences shared during this forum. One of the reasons I'm here is to listen and to learn, and I'm acutely aware that some of the most innovative and creative open TVET initiatives are being pursued by colleagues working in much more challenging contexts than we face in New Zealand. Speaking from the perspective of an open learning institution, I want to focus on an area where I believe ODL can play a powerful enabling role in skills development networks and collaboration, using flexible models for blended delivery. ODL, in its own right, must be a vital contributor to meeting the world's education and skills needs. No country can continue to afford to build bricks and mortar institutions to meet the huge growth in learner needs. We've reached a time where open and distance learning must play a pivotal role in helping upskill our citizens. But ODL can further extend its potential contribution and outreach through variations of the blended model. In terms of learner outcomes, distance delivery traditionally works best for self-directed and self-motivated learners within a mature institutional system of learning support and quality assurance. These are conditions that do not apply to vast numbers of people and contexts requiring improved access to skills development. But the reach of effective distance delivery is also further constrained where there is a practical requirement to learn by doing and to demonstrate physical competence in a given skill or skills. Conversely, as we've seen, traditional face-to-face teachings cannot meet the scale of demand we now face for education and training. Blended delivery brings together, potentially at least, the best of what ODL can provide and the best of what conventional face-to-face teaching and instruction can provide. For this reason, variants of blended delivery are now increasingly being used in both developed and developing nations, with theory components delivered by distance and practical or face-to-face elements delivered in the classroom, workplace or community. I'm not sure, however, that policymakers and indeed many practitioners in the TVET community have fully recognised the true potential of this model to meet the global skills development challenges before us. From an institutional perspective, I believe that many ODL institutions will be driven by an increasing imperative to find new ways of making their unique capabilities available in collaborative networks and particularly in the skills development domain. ODL institutions bring a number of assets to such arrangements. They can deliver high-quality learning resources, recontextualised as needed, to support distributed TVET networks across workplaces, communities, countries and regions. They have the ability to disaggregate the value chain and recombine its components in customised blends to suit different partners, different collaborative arrangements and local contexts. With their expertise and capability in distributed learning, they can play a key role in designing, supporting and enabling TVET networks, including fit-for-purpose quality assurance systems. The basic blended model can be deployed in many different variations to suit specific needs and contexts. Schools, institutions, workplaces, community centres or settings can all be utilised as learning environments and to provide support, computers, assessment and practical exercises for learners using self-study resources. And when new investment in infrastructure is made, the blended model can generate much greater return on that investment, so we can start to make those small surpluses. Mentors, coaches and assessors can be drawn from the community or workplace, or along with instructors and teachers from partnered schools or institutions within a network. They, in turn, can be supported by appropriate facilitation and assessment guides and training, and train others to fulfill these roles. While the use of ICTs is a key focus in many open and blended TVET initiatives underway, the blended model can be deployed to suit whatever local conditions pertain. In this way, it's able to cost-effectively extend the reach, scale and benefits of ODL to wider constituencies and learning environments. So what are some of the factors that can increase the success of blended TVET initiatives? Clearly, this is a large topic that starts at the macro level with enabling government policy for flexible TVET delivery and flows through issues such as quality and relevance, system and institutional capability building, strong linkages with employers and industry, and so on. In terms of effective implementation, I believe high quality learning design is crucial. By this, I'm not only referring to the design of learning resources, as important as they are. I mean the design and management of the overall blended delivery system, including the roles of the complementary partners and quality assurance across the distributed delivery chain. Above all, learning design needs to be driven by the needs of the learner and the local context to ensure the appropriate mix of style of self-study resources, delivery media and technology, assessment and face-to-face support. Youth unemployment, for example, is an issue of major global concern. 44% of the world's unemployed are youth. The scale of this problem can only be addressed by innovative new approaches to blended and flexible TVET delivery. In its 2007 World Development Report, the World Bank emphasises the greater effectiveness of demand, needs and context-driven learning solutions for youth in developing countries who failed or did not enter formal secondary schooling. Remedial interventions are more likely to succeed when their delivery takes account of why young people dropped out or did not attend schooling, the challenges young people face to stay in a program, and how they can be integrated into the formal sector of employment. Such programs tend to adopt flexible curricula and modes and take an integrated approach to combining both job and life skills. These are exactly the types of factors that effective blended learning design incorporates in the content and delivery mix. Collaboration in this context means the various partners in a blended delivery network or arrangement understanding what each of them does best, then working together to design and deliver a solution that adds maximum value from combining their respective strengths. Let me briefly give you some examples of how the Open Polytechnic works with partners in the design and delivery of blended TVET solutions. Since its inception in 1946, the Open Polytechnic has successfully delivered technical and vocationally oriented courses and qualifications to hundreds of thousands of learners. That's somewhat fewer than the huge numbers that we see in NIOS or in IGNU, but in a country that's only got a population of 4.3 million and dispersed through a landmass the size of the United Kingdom, that's fairly significant. As we're often told by international colleagues, we have an unusually wide and diverse course portfolio and student constituency. So diverse, in fact, that leading ODL author and academic Ormond Simpson was prompted to tell us, "You're a very unusual institution. You teach everything from drain laying to degrees." And Ormond was kind enough to add that he thought we did it fairly well as well. Our courses range from basic skills and foundation level to certificates and higher level qualifications across a wide range of subjects. At one end of the spectrum, we offer courses in subjects such as urban pest management, construction, agriculture, horticulture, plumbing and gas fitting, basic workplace skills, small business, health and safety, and electrical engineering. At the other end, we offer 5-degree programs with majors including accounting, human resource management, environment, communications, psychology, information technology, library studies, early childhood education, and engineering technology. We work to a formal quality regime. All courses are quality assured, and we're accredited to deliver programs by the New Zealand Qualifications Authority, our national qualifications body. Because all government-owned tertiary education institutions in New Zealand work to a national quality assurance framework, we ensure that all students are taught to a standard that has been agreed with both government and with industry. This ensures the portability of skills and qualifications for our students. Regardless of where they're located in New Zealand, their completed program of study will be recognised by industry and employers throughout the country. Our core business is a quite pure form of distance learning based on a classical ODL model. We invest in sophisticated virtual learner support rather than face-to-face support. We have, however, evolved this basic model to reach other learner constituencies, where some element of contact support is either required for demonstration of competency or is needed to support learners less likely to succeed in distance-only study. At the foundation level, we deliver basic work and life skills through a combination of motivational, custom-designed learning materials with facilitated group work provided by partner training organisations. We also provide facilitator guides and training. We choose these organisations because they're close to and understand our local communities, for example Pacifica or Māori learners. We've also delivered a work and life skills program nationally to thousands of people with low or no prior educational achievement, a significant proportion of whom were unemployed. Again, the self-study learning resources were designed to be highly motivational and to engage the learners in a process of thinking about their own life situation and direction, as well as providing basic employment skills. The resources were supplemented by roving coaches employed by local community organisations who visited the learners in their own homes to provide encouragement and support and to conduct learning assessments. We've also used this method successfully for foundation level programs on financial and home ownership skills. Another variant of this approach was used when our colleagues at Commonwealth of Learning contracted the Open Polytechnic to design open educational resources in foundation level trade skills for use in small Pacific nations. The OERs were developed in conjunction with the Pacific Association of Technical and Vocational Education and Training. The learning design focused closely on the needs and constraints of the local context. Printed resources were the only viable delivery media. These were appropriately contextualised and produced in easy-to-print form with a supplementary DVD where this could be used, along with student and tutor guides. Given Pacifica people's cultural preference for group-based learning, the materials were designed for blended delivery, with local Pacifica tradespeople using their tutor guides to help support students. To date, these materials have been used in Kiribati, Nauru, Niue, Tuvalu, Fiji, and now in Zimbabwe. And we have recently completed another project for COL on literacy and numeracy materials to be used to support the basic trades courses. The Open Polytechnic also has arrangements with some smaller provincial polytechnics in New Zealand to deliver our business and early childhood education degree and our diplomas in architectural technology, construction management and quantity surveying to their students. The students enrol through us, but are able to access the resources of their local providers during their study. Internationally, our partnerships with the University of Southern Queensland allows our students to enrol on their engineering technology degree. Students are supported by the Open Polytechnic tutors, but the learning materials are managed by USQ, and students travel to Australia for any on-site practicums that are required. At another level, the Open Polytechnic uses extensively industry involvement. In a various blended TVET arrangements, which combine our distance delivery study with workplace learning and assessment provided by industry, and also face-to-face sessions using contact providers. A key imperative for skills development is ensuring that education programs deliver the core skills employers and industry needs. In New Zealand, industry training organisations, or ITOs, play a key role in this context, designing the industry training framework, enrolling the industry trainees, and coordinating a system of workplace-based competency assessment. For those we work with, the Open Polytechnic provides mainly the theory component of training through distance education. This partnership approach helps ensure that students receive a consistent learning experience wherever they are in New Zealand. As part of the ITO model, students complete their theory with us while learning on the job with the employer. Part of the qualification completion process involves students completing workplace assessments. Quality standards are maintained by ensuring assessors are appropriately trained and qualified to an acceptable standard. They are provided with clear and explicit outcomes for the course and assessments so that they know what standard of performance is required of the students they're assessing. They're also provided with robust assessments and a marking guide. All assessment methods and the marking guide are moderated, as are samples of the students' performances. Depending on the type of assessment, the assessor may observe the student carrying out the activity, or if it is a report written by the student, seek verification from both the student and the employer that it is the student's own work. In an area like pharmacy technician training, the employer, the pharmacist, is closely involved in the training process. They are tasked with mentoring the learner as they work, through the learning materials, and when necessary, verifying the skills of the learner. Aside from the tutor support and marking of assessments, the Open Polytechnic arranges for assessors to visit the learner in the workplace to undertake competency assessments. Where learners need training in specific skills which cannot be delivered in the workplace, such as learning how to compound medications, the Open Polytechnic runs workshops over a 2-day period to deliver intensive training. Within the basic blended model, therefore, we're able to operate in a variety of flexible ways, from simply providing the theory component to designing and coordinating the whole delivery and assessment network. Looking to the future, we need to think about how we can take the basic model and deploy it more widely in TVET contexts, both within and outside of formal industry training and both on and offshore. This partly involves thinking hard about TVET learning design, about how we can make flexible skills solutions as context, work and learner-centred and effective as possible. In terms of blended delivery, there is huge scope to employ more technology-enabled learning to increase the engagement of workforce trainees and of young people and second-chance learners requiring basic work and life skills, and at the same time increase skills and learning outcomes. Virtual simulations and animations, for example, are much more likely to suit the learning styles and aptitudes of many trainees and second-chance learners, youth or adult, as well as making the learning experience more effective. Mobile phones can be used for motivation, support and in-situ assessments for trainees in the field or mobile work situations, as well as the workplace. Larger screen mobile devices such as iPads further increase the potential for learning literally in any time and any place. Electronic books will radically change the economics and logistics of traditional book publishing and distribution. Books or texts can now be made available instantly and more cheaply in nearly any location. The use of video uploaded to institution-controlled websites or to free networking sites such as YouTube can help explain complex theories or show difficult-to-explain concepts. Institution-owned websites can also host software simulation packages for courses to provide real-time learning. Students can use the simulation online to actually see how an application is used and to interact with the software to complete set tasks. Software such as Adobe Presenter can combine a slideshow with either audio or video narration, helping to stimulate students and simulate a classroom environment, but one that students can access when it suits them, either on computer or on smartphones. New technologies in ODL are also allowing us to create virtual classrooms, establishing online communities of learning, and help ease the burden of studying in isolation. All of this TECO potential, of course, needs to be set against the continuing and severe challenge posed by the digital divide, both within and between nations. But here I return to my earlier point about the centrality of learning design. The current and emerging trends in technology-enabled learning do not replace more traditional distance education, media or modes, or indeed face-to-face support or instruction, where this is what is needed to ensure good learning outcomes. They simply and greatly expand the array of tools that are available for learning designers when they construct context and learner-centered solutions. The question is always which mix of media will best meet the needs of the learners where they live and where they work. I believe that this expanded set of tools has enormous potential for extending the reach and effectiveness of blended TVET delivery. I want to conclude by returning to the theme of collaboration and to briefly touch on some illustrative examples of current technology-enabled learning networks. These are examples of ways e-learning networks can provide institutions with access to improved resources and cost efficiencies, while at the same time creating more opportunities for geographically dispersed students to access tertiary education. As I've said earlier, I believe collaboration will be a central feature of deploying ODL in blended and other networks to meet the global skills challenges that are before us. We are seeing an increasing number of national education organisations collaborating to maximise the benefits of sharing e-learning resources from development to implementation. For many of these endeavours, the projects have similar components as they work towards e-learning infrastructure and the delivery of quality online courses. These key components include developing staff, building leaders, increasing choice and support for learners, and creating content. The first model I'd like to talk about is the single network with autonomous members. Campus Saskatchewan in Canada uses this model, with a network that allows 14 different tertiary institutions to collaborate on inter-institutional initiatives to achieve shared goals and priorities for the use of technology-enabled learning. The main ways the members work together include a shared website, shared resource development, cross-crediting courses and shared services, especially offering various forms of face-to-face support for online courses offered by other members. This model can be member-led or government-owned, but in all cases the government acts as a funder and strategic partner in its ongoing success. Another model is the network of informal networks. The Finnish Virtual Polytechnic and the Finnish Virtual University both use this type of model. Members of this type of model are institutions, but the networks are networks of staff across those institutions. Staff use the technology to work together on specific projects related to a subject or topic. This type of network relies on self-organising communities of practice, with some central funding to support agreed goals. Both the Finnish institutions using this model have a central team that supports the governance and management groups of the virtual collaboration. These networks seek the outcome of increased choice for learners by improving student mobility between providers and supporting them with online courses. A third model is the network of formal networks, and the Australian Flexible Learning Framework is a good example of this one. The framework is primarily for funding bodies and aims to provide the Australian VET system with the essential e-learning infrastructure and expertise needed to respond to the challenges of today's economy and the training needs of Australian businesses and workers. The funding bodies represent large numbers of providers that work together in various ways across the Australian states. They work at a high level to coordinate both institutional and system-wide e-learning development. Another model is the network-funded support organisation. This type of network uses a separate organisation or organisational unit to provide high-quality and cost-effective e-learning resources. The University of London International Programme, which until recently was known as the University's External System, is an example of this approach. The university is made up of 19 self-governing colleges, all of which are accredited to offer the University of London degrees. The International Programme system manages the university's distance learning provision and serves around 40,000 students in 180 countries. It offers design and development support and a central administrative system for the individual colleges. There are, of course, many other examples of collaborative networks, including here in India and in other parts of the Commonwealth, alongside Cole's own virtual university for the small states of the Commonwealth at a transnational level. The good thing is that collaboration and networks are happening and pointing us towards the future. I believe one of the most interesting and potentially exciting developments in the years ahead will be the way networked approaches continue to evolve and to encompass a wider range of industry, private sector, community and other stakeholders in delivering effective TVET learning solutions. Certainly my own institution is committed to participating in enabling and furthering such approaches. Collaboration is the only way governments and nations can meet the huge skills development challenges before us, and open and distance learning will be a fundamental contributor to that process. Thank you.